Hello and welcome everyone. I'm your host Stefan Burns, geologist, geophysicist, a human being on planet Earth, flying through the interstellar cloud, Milky Way, galaxy, universe, everything right along here with you. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about. I was kind of wondering what to discuss today, should anything arise, and well, I was just flooded with information today. And it's really no surprise because at this exact moment in time, right now, we're doing it live, folks. Right now, we have this comet perfectly aligned in between the sun and the earth, just slightly to the south of the ecliptic plane. That's a big deal. Just in the past 3 days, we've had a surge of solar flares. And all of this is changing Earth's resonance. We have seen a measurable shift in the Schumann resonances, which is beneficial to us. So thank God. You know, sometimes we just need a win, baby, and well, we got one, folks. So if you are here, a resident of this planet, and you evolved here for billions of years, that's our best guess, well, you just got a big old dose of, you know, what makes God great. So that is fantastic. Going deeper though, more than just your daily electromagnetic health tune-up, where we'll talk about torsional flux in the universe, and we'll discuss plasma and how we just have started to undergo a electromagnetic plasma changeover event. So a lot to discuss in today's video. Very positive and optimistic. I really don't see anything bad here. We've just went through some very serious events. Some EF4 tornadoes came down in Oklahoma, and there is ample evidence of new homes and buildings being sheared off at the anchor bolts. So very likely EF5. That's a very powerful tornado sequence that unfolded in Oklahoma. Thankfully, from what I hear, no one was killed by that. There's injuries, but no one died. So that is awesome that everyone was safe. But tremendous destruction. And that was seemingly generated by a coronal hole on the sun that was very large, that swept by center and geoeffective a few days prior. This is exactly what they do. You can expect heightened tornado activity in mid-latitude zones during these times of the year, these seasons, when you have large trans-equatorial coronal holes on the sun. It's a pretty much, and within 1 week of each other, okay? So after that coronal hole high-speed stream, you have 1 week afterwards where there's a certain 50% modifier for tornadoes, for example. So what we're seeing is a lot of very powerful events with earthquake activity. Japan is very worried right now about a mega quake. For example, the tornadoes, there's wildfires. There's always a lot happening on our planet. And sometimes it seems like it's spinning out of control. And it is. So that's why it's so amazing when we get these sort of tune-ups that allow us to shift our gears into better signal versus noise, let's say. Sometimes we're in a gear that's just shaky, it's noisy, it's not clicking or grooving, but you just can't jump out of it. Then you shift down to, let's say, first gear, which is where the car loves to sit, and you can ride it all day. That's where we are right now. So we've just shifted to first gear after being in a noisy second. And what we're seeing manifest before us is a whole sequence going up of potential. So we're now at the beginning of a progression that could take us to some really incredible places, so we choose. This is a rebirth, brand new pivot point moment. Now, what we often see in our reality, and because we're giving these quite frequently, though we may not realize it collectively, we are giving these collective pivot points every single second effectively. It just depends on your level of consciousness. Sometimes it's a little bit more obvious, like you get a comet on a 170,000 year orbit, baby, to fly directly in between the sun and the earth, right when we're in the midst of a once in a 11,400 year planetary transit with Earth, Venus, Uranus, trans-Neptunian dwarf planet Sedna and the Pleiades all perfectly conjunct at this moment in time. So you start to add in the geometry and the time scales of this geometry and these events, and it really begins to impress upon you how important and powerful this moment is. Though again, we're giving these every single second. It's just, are we just snapped into it? So we have this pivot point, and what we've seen in the past is often we kind of just replay the same loop or just slightly different. But we could, if we want, change the entire track and start up on a new, completely new beat. Like that's way groovier, hopefully. Like I'm not in it for just let's do version 2.1 and we're at 2.0 right now. This is 2.1 and we're booting up 2. If we're 2.1, we're booting up 2.2. I'm not sure I want it. Give me like 5.0 right now, okay? Just go straight to the best version, and then let's talk about the incremental updates. Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3. Phase 2 is dropping soon, folks. Anniversary servers. So that is effectively where we are. So let me get into it. Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Stefan Burns, geologist, geo guy, space dude, cosmic bro. Yeah, a lot of cool things coming in right now. Hope you are all doing well. Seeing you in the chat, just going through it really quick. Saw you guys rolling in. Moderators are here. That's awesome. We do these sort of live streams quite frequently, by the way, if you're watching this on replay. So you get subscribed to the channel and click that notification bell. You get notified, or if it just stumbles upon you, hello, welcome, huzzah. And effectively, we're just always looking at what's happening with the Earth, with the sun, solar activity, with the planets, planetary geometry, alignments. We talk about asteroids, comets, even bigger and better forces. So we actually have a little bit to talk about with 3i Atlas as well. Really come to a realization that that was not a coincidence, folks. Like that was very purposely, intentfully flown by the sun. So yeah, okay, so let us get into it. And we are going to start with our Schumann resonances, because that is where the story is, folks. Schumann resonances. And I even have a video here showing the Schumann resonances, kind of like an animation for it. Hopefully I can pull that up quickly. Right here. So Schumann resonances, Earth's naturally resonant wavelengths of light energy. It's a mouthful. You have to chew on it. Like what? Earth's naturally resonant wavelengths or frequencies or vibrations, oscillations, all those words work. Earth's naturally resonant wavelengths of light energy. What is light? Light is what we see. We see only visible light, though. Of course, there's a whole wide spectrum going all the way from near 0 hertz or 0 hertz, which is no pulsations. 1 hertz is 1 cycle per second. That's your heartbeat, basically, okay? Because you have, let's say, 60 beats per minute. Your heart is pumping at 1 hertz. That's a very important frequency, by the way. Very important to make sure you have a good 1 hertz environment around you. That's why people like to move and dance with that sort of music, or the music may be 120 beats per minute. So now it's 0.5 hertz, but your heart can oscillate it with it every two beats, right? So our frequency environment is tremendously important as it relates to our physical health, because we are beings of resonance, nested levels of different frequencies at different powers and strengths interacting, working together. Energy can move from one frequency to another, but the important thing is that you hold on to your energy and your frequency, because entropy exists. So you don't want your energy just to go away. That's really important. So that's why resonance is so important, because resonance is that ability for the energy to just stay humming in an area without much loss. So it's really just going like this. And if that builds and amplifies, you have what's known as resonance amplification. That can be a very good thing. It can also lead to some very crazy geophysical situations. Again, different gears that we are building up to potentially in the future. I think very likely. We are on the fast track now, you could say, in terms of our energetic upbringing and our consciousness upbringing. So what happens is Earth has a physical size, as we see here. The diameter is 40,000 kilometers, okay? 40,000 kilometers. That's the physical dimension of the Earth if you were to wrap a string all the way around the planet, okay? If you take the speed of light, it's 300,000 kilometers per second. So they're pretty comparable now. 300,000 kilometers per second, 40,000 kilometers for circumference. Okay, one single light photon can wrap around our planet basically about 8 times in a second. That's that 1 hertz beat. 8 times in a second. Or if you do the math precisely, it's 7.5 hertz. If you do 300,000 divided by 40, you get 7.5 hertz. This is a fundamental frequency of our planet as a result of this basic physics. And what we observe is that at 7.5 hertz, in either the electric field or the magnetic field, you can measure any of them, we find a higher power level there than we would around other frequencies, let's say 9 hertz or 6 hertz or whatever. That 7.5 hertz hums beautifully at higher power levels than the rest of the background electromagnetic spectrum. And it has a range to it. It's more about 7.2 to 8.5 hertz. And then you have a second mode, a higher frequency, a second gear at 14 hertz, a third gear at 20 hertz. You have one at 26 hertz, 33 hertz, 39, 45. So you have all these different energy bands going up that form this chord, you could say, like a musical chord of energy. They all, they share energy amongst each other. For example, during sometimes earthquakes, we see changes in the energy bands of the Schumann resonances, and so you can have energy shift from the foundational mode at around 7.8 hertz up to 14. Maybe the second mode shifts its energy up to mode 4 at 26 hertz. Now you're in that earthquake frequency band. There's a lot of very interesting things. This is also perfectly overlapping with our brainwaves. So our brainwaves go from 0 to 40 hertz. They actually go up into the hundreds of hertz, but the main dominant power bands in our brainwaves are, well, at Schumann resonances. That's what they found. So that's pretty wild. When we enter into different states of consciousness, we move through the different bands of the Schumann resonance. And in general, if you were to do something that connects you more to the Earth, for example, you go to sleep and you have a dream, right now you're in this like collective consciousness field, or you take some plant medicine and you start to see everything around you differently because you're looking at it with a different frequency, that shifts your brain waves right down to the Schumann band, around 7.8 hertz. So this is a very important frequency to track. And, well, we track it. This is really what I started. When I first started YouTube, it was all about tracking Schumann resonances. So of all the topics that I cover, it's Schumann resonances that I know the most. Though space weather is a very, very close second at this point. But Schumann resonances are very interesting. Here we see a visual representation of this data. Okay, I hope you're all still with me. Thank you for being here. Welcome to class, folks. You're going to learn more here right now than you've learned in any class probably in your life. I mean, maybe at the university level, your mind's been equally blown. I hope so. I'm doing my absolute best to present this in a way that's empowering with information, but you can also still acquire it. So we have our visual representation of this. It's called a spectrogram. And we have to plot it out with our axes. So we have our y-axis here and we have our x-axis. Our y-axis goes from 0 to 40 hertz. So we're looking at, again, one pulsation is 1 hertz per second, or 8 pulsations a second is 8 hertz. So we're doing that basically going from 0 to 40 hertz across a 3-day time frame. And the color legend here shows the band colors and the energy. So this is low energy, this is high energy. Okay. We can also classify that as power or intensity. And we can see changes across the spectrogram based on the frequency and the time. Okay, so we'll look at quite a few data sets, and there's so much to talk about. Again, like the torsional flux and entropy and the plasma changeover event, like crazy stuff. But we have to start at the basics. So here we're looking at the Schumann resonances. Let me turn myself off. Watch my cursor, okay? And we see this first band here. We really see it nicely right here. The past 24 hours or so, a little bit more than that, past 30 hours, we see this band here. That's mode 1 of the Schumann resonance at about 7.8 hertz, and you see it's actually a bit of a range. But if you carry that over, you see it's right in that 8 hertz zone right there. Here's mode 2, 14 hertz, though again it's like more like 13.5 to 15 hertz. Here we see mode 3, right around 20 hertz. Mode 4 there at 24 hertz, and then they put a filter at 32 hertz and below, so it's harder to see those specific bands, though they do exist. And you'll notice, and this is a local atmospheric effect for the location where we're measuring these. We can measure these globally due to their global propagation. The entire Earth is resonating with these wavelengths of these frequencies of energy in the ground, in the oceans, in the surface, in the atmosphere, going out to space. Like, they are measurable everywhere. This is a foundational frequency that we are all enmeshed within. So this is, let's say, like a rainstorm, or more likely based on its signature, it was a thunderstorm here for about 3 hours, and then it was a rainstorm afterwards for the next 8 hours or so over Tomsk, Russia, which is where these are being located using a vertical electric field horizontal antenna. So yeah, it can get pretty complex at times, but what we're most interested in is just these bands here. And just first, like, basically, I mean, it's really simple. We don't have to really go beyond this at this video if we don't want to, is that here, the bands are really weak. You can see it very clearly, right? This is the 23rd of April. Bands are super weak. Now they're very nice and strong. How about that, baby? We love it. We love to see these bands get strong. So what have we just had over the past few days that would perhaps do that? Well, here we see our data. This is amazing. So this is not a frequency change in the Schumann resonances, it's an intensity change, but it's a significant one because I think this is going to be longer lasting than you may otherwise think, because they go through these fluctuations. But this was a significant event that we went through just yesterday, okay? So here we have April 24th, we see 2 X flares. These are 2 different 2.5 level X-class solar flares. X flares are the highest level that you can have. I mean, you can start to, with super flares, really scale up there. But for our traditional measure, for what we see actually, X flares are right at the top. Then we had multiple M flares. I mean, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 M-class flares, the second highest level over the past 3 days now. But you notice that our solar activity was really quiet. All our solar flares were low, very, very low. See this? Even just back on April 20th, it was very low activity. Then we bumped up, and then we had a huge burst of solar flares. Let me show you these solar flares because it really puts everything into perspective. Here we have the 21st of April. You'll notice that things are quiet, but you'll see a few very interesting things here. I'm really excited to show you this because this is some pretty cool stuff. This all charges up the ionosphere of our planet. The upper atmosphere starts to reduce in density as gravity has less influence over it. You know, everything gets held in close to the surface due to density. So the upper atmosphere is not that dense, but it's closest to the space environment. And we have a plasma environment. It actually goes from atmosphere into plasma. So we have this natural just release where we go from atmosphere to plasma once you get 1,000 kilometers up above the surface. This sort of energy, which is extreme ultraviolet and X-ray flux light from the sun, hits us in 8.3 minutes, ionizes that plasma, and that atmosphere in the ionosphere into plasma. It creates ions, charged particles. It electrifies our planet. We have a global electric circuit. So there's a natural flow of energy through our planet, and with the magnetic field, it's actually like a torus flow, spiral vertical, like spiral flow of energy through our planet. Okay. So these are the X flares and M flares that we've had. This is the sunspot right here that really went nuts, because right as it moves into alignment with the comet flying in, it starts to go crazy. You see it happen, the shift right there. And look at the cloud all of a sudden that starts to form around that sunspot. Look here, see all these arcs, these loops, these coronal loops, they're holding in position. It just formed a plasma cloud and it's still rotating off. So one thing to note for those that watch this regularly and are actively interested in solar activity, this sunspot likely will come back around with its next rotation and be quite active. At least it's much more likely now because of this comet flying in than otherwise. It took an otherwise small sunspot, it wasn't that active or notable, and turned it into an X-flare player. So we have now this new torsional magnetic loop that the sun will be integrating over the next probably 1 to 2 rotations. Maybe it lasts longer than that. It's possible. We see all these other sunspots also come into frame, and now they're all facing Earth. So while we got big doses of energy from these X flares and M flares that charge up our global electric circuit and strengthen the Schumann resonances, thank God, because the reason why I mentioned this is so positive at the beginning is that because we evolved in them, when they're healthy and strong, we are as well. When the Earth is in her own resonance, we are also in an amazing resonance, and we're healthy and we're vital. We actually get good sleep and we're not nervous or anxious and out of rhythm and out of whack. Again, we're in that nice first gear. So it looks like all these solar flares here, or these sunspots here, as they move across, will pepper us, probably with like moderate level solar flares. We'll probably get some more solar wind activations and also geomagnetic activity, but it probably won't be that crazy unless something big happens. But that's also then going to continue this strengthening trend that we've had for the Schumann resonances. And if we go specifically to here, this is the software program I use to generate these videos. It pulls data directly from NASA. But I want you to watch here. Here's the sunspot. Again, right before it entered into alignment with this comet. This right here is like a lens cleaning thing. Watch how it goes. Watch the cloudiness, okay, around here. You'll notice that it's not that cloudy. The moment it starts to really get active, it starts to form this plasma cloud. See how now all of a sudden there's all this plasma hanging around the surface, whereas before it wasn't. It's just flaring, like look at that. It's just flaring like crazy, right? And now it's holding on to that. That is literally the sun extending out with its electromagnetic fields and therefore its plasma towards this comet. And I mean, these specifically, I have another video I can show you. I think maybe I have it loaded up already. Yeah, I believe I do. We can see this plasma in our 304 angstrom view beautifully reaching out into space from all these different flares. Look at that. So reaching out towards this comet to establish a connection. This comet has already been very plasma rich and dust poor. So it doesn't have that much dust, but it's had a lot of plasma. And it's right now hitting us with its tail. So we are right now in the midst of being swept over by plasma from a comet. Yeah, and here we have an X flare, and then we'll see another one come up right here. This is the second one, bigger coronal mass ejection on this, but basically, oh yeah. So you can see the sun reaching out to connect to this comet. And we can just see the comet's tail really quick. This was imaged on the 18th of April, so a day before perihelion. But look at the plasma on this comet. Very, very plasma rich. So that's right now hitting the Earth, because again, if we go back to our coronagraph, we will see that it is, well, right there. So it's right interacting with us perfectly at this moment in time. This is where the electromagnetic changeover event occurs, because we've accumulated certain energies around our planet. For example, the biggest change I guess I could comment on, if we look at longer time scales, is in the past 150 years, we've built all these electric fields and technology and devices on our planet. So you have the power grid running at 50 hertz, 60 hertz, different frequencies across the planet. You have all the cell phone towers. You have now all the Wi-Fi and cell phones. You have the military frequencies, the hospital and government frequencies. Now you even have flock cameras. If you know what those are, these are just little cameras that they're installing illegally in the United States. And it's just like a little thing hooked up with solar, and it has its own Wi-Fi. And they're creating this mesh network of surveillance tracking using AI to watch you. And they're also polluting entire cities and neighborhoods with these hidden Wi-Fi networks. So if you go on your phone, you won't see the SSID, but if you search for them and ping for them using more sophisticated software, you get hits from all of them. So these private companies now are even irradiating the populace and tracking them via surveillance right now at this moment in time. So the point is that some of these energies that have accumulated in the data centers, don't get me started, okay? Some of these energies are not to our benefit. 5G is not good for you. It interacts with water because it's over 1 gigahertz in frequency. Water absorbs these electromagnetic frequencies very nicely if you go over 1 gigahertz. This is just the electric susceptibility of water, basic stuff, check it out. Water has a memory to it, that's very important. And so we're building up all this like karma, baggage, energy and memory that we don't need. So the sun comes along with this comet, and it's coming in full of plasma from deep, deep space. This is what's so cool. It's coming in from basically deep interstellar space, and it's probably been inactive. Well, we don't know how many trips around the sun it's done, but it's not doing them that frequently. So it's spending a lot of time in a completely different environment that's unperturbed by our frantic activities to understand ourselves through technology. Okay, which will never accomplish the goal, at least not that I foresee. So I think what we're seeing right now, at least we could speculate on this, is that we're having this plasma changeover event where since we're getting hit by this plasma tail, amidst some in general heightened solar wind, the plasma and all the kind of stuck energy surrounding our planet is going to get swept out, and we're going to get new plasma put in around our planet that is of this cometary origin. At least some percentage of that will occur. Now, how much? I don't know, but I think it's actually going to be a good amount. I think it's going to be quite a lot, in fact. I bet if we had a lot of good probes, we would see like a majority plasma changeover event. So that's really interesting, because this is not something that happens every single day. And we're seeing the Schumann resonances just strengthen, which is a good sign for the global electric circuit. So we're seeing evidence that right now the Earth is healing to some degree. But this also comes with a certain awareness and consciousness that it's not going to keep healing if we continue to let these things happen on our planet, which are not good for her health, which are these artificial electromagnetic frequencies. And we know that there's a purpose to this, because just about a year ago now, not even a year ago, we discovered our third ever interstellar object, and it flew directly by our sun. The nearest star system is like 4 light years away. The Centauri system, 4 light years away. Yet this thing comes in from deep outer space and perfectly cuts to the inner solar system, right outside of Mars, and then flies on its way. It's beyond coincidence, folks. When you start to evoke the scales that are at play here, it's really quite incredible. So interstellar object 3I Atlas carried with it a certain intention and energy and frequency and vibe. And now we're having these other celestial messengers coming in. We're having, right now, March and April, a surge in big fireball sightings, well above the average. So this is showing that these interstellar and cosmic forces are coming into stronger and stronger degrees and creating these very potent activations on the planet. But we need to improve what we're doing, because if we look at our Schumann resonances, it hasn't been looking too hot. So that's the problem. We can go back and look at them now one more time, a little bit more qualitatively. Here again, we see they're looking good right now. The Schumann resonances there is just looking like muddy, junky energy, right? We can go back and let's even go to like the 23rd here. Where are they? They're not even there. I mean, you can barely see mode 1. Mode 2 is barely there. Mode 3 and 4 are just like a whisper of a memory. This looks like shit. This doesn't, you get these weird energy signals in there, which I correlated with the Japanese earthquake. I mean, the magnitude 7.5. This really just isn't good. And what you'll notice is that there's this weird frequency pattern right here, this grid that is on the background vertical electric field measured in Tomsk, Russia. This is, probably regional to some degree, but there's clearly been some more electromagnetic junk energy that's just entering in. See, here we see them. This is back on the 11th of April. Here we see them fading out. Look how weak they got. So we just were really in a weak state. And when they're weak, you're going to, for example, have more anxiety, and you're going to be less connected, less intuitive. You're going to sleep worse. Your body's going to start to break down. Like, these could be very well things that happen. We need these frequencies. They are some of the most vital life force energies that exist, that are required for optimal health and longevity. And well, corporatism and now some private companies and governments have been fucking with them for a long time. And not to our benefit. Actually, probably to to shift the earth away from her natural frequency that she is meant to be. There is this force to change earth from what she is into something different. And the thing is, if we shift there into this ultra technology future, we may not be able to shift earth back to her natural frequency state. Like, this is the thing. Now the sun knows this. The sun is like really got our back. I've had 3 separate dreams now of massive solar events coming in. And in those dreams, I haven't been fearful. And there's a certain aspect to our biology that can take these solar events. Like, let's say a super flare impact. We've had them before. Seems that people were fine. But you have a super flare, that could take technology out. So I've had these dreams. We can work with the sun and the earth cooperatively and harmoniously. And if not, if we get shifted out of balance, the sun will create a response and will fix things. But it won't be to that benefit. So keep that in mind. We really need to treat our earth with respect. We just had Earth Day. And we're seeing all these weird frequencies. Like here we go back to the 10th of March. Where's that grid? This looks much healthier. See how good this looks? I mean, you get thunderstorm activity. This looks pretty solid. This is the 10th of March. Let's go to the 13th right here. This grid, there it is. All of a sudden, look how they turned this grid on. It's really, I haven't reported on this yet, because I've been trying to understand what it was. Because we see things happen all the time on the spectrogram, and so you really need to watch things for a while before you really understand, like have a good sense of what it is. But some sort of weird electromagnetic grid was put into place on the 12th of March, right here. You can see the clear shift. Someone flipped the switch, like right there. And we've been in that sense, and that needs to go. because that is not healthy. That's like just tons of anxiety right there. So that really needs to go. So wanted to comment on that. Now, if we go back to here, like, why did this happen in the first place? That's a good question. I personally believe that there's a reason for everything. If you look at this animation, and you know, we really don't know the dynamics of outer space that far out. We're pretty actually in the dark about what our interstellar space environment looks like. We know very little. We see the far distant stars, but in terms of imaging things right in our immediate surrounding, very difficult. Because the sun is pretty dim once you get out there. The sunlight and reflections and everything. Is that what dislodged this comet? It seems like it's a perfect time for this to come in and help assist us naturally with this increasing high vibe mindset that we all hope to promote, which is, you know, less killing and death on our planet and more family, community, and love, fun, joy, bliss, passion, you know, all the things that are great and less the things that we don't like. Well, you know, what dislodges a comet from this cometary reservoir that we have, observational evidence exists because comets exist? You can imagine there's some sort of torsional flux wave traveling through our location in space, like some interstellar stream of ether, for example, right? That we can't measure, or at least we don't have the ability to sense yet, but it comes through and that helps dislodge things. That helps change the electromagnetic environment and more. So that's a possible explanation. So it's perfect timing. Not here to freak anyone out. I mean, we are getting a lot of fireballs, and we do have this comet right now directly in between the sun and the Earth, and we have this crazy planetary alignment, which involves Uranus. So this is really quite wild. Uranus being a planet that's tilted on its side. So we have to also remember that we're not alone in the solar system. I think sometimes we think, us humans, that we're like completely by ourselves out here, but we have all the planets in the solar system supporting us. They all work together as a system. So right now, as this happens, this plasma changeover event from the comet to the Earth, we're seeing this frequency shift. We have also off to the side, we have Venus, Uranus, Sedna, a trans-Neptunian dwarf object, and the Pleiades, which is our nearest interstellar cluster at 444 light years away, where you have the central sun that people talk about, you know, big stars. We have that alignment. Uranus is tilted exactly on its side. There's no planet better to be able to listen in to its surroundings all around. Uranus is doing that. It's at 20 astronomical units, so it's fairly far out, but it's also not as far out as Sedna, which is 70, about probably 80 something astronomical units out right now, maybe 90 astronomical units out. Pleiades, of course, is 444 light years away. Venus, close into the solar system. We have this like transmission line. And Uranus, our grandfather, you could say, is listening in, and he's a repository of wisdom. Uranus is associated with the archetype of Prometheus, the awakener, the person who brings fire and liberates humanity from the lesser levels of mortality. And the gods were angry at Prometheus because fire was reserved for the gods, but we were given this gift. And so Uranus is here as a deliverer of blessings for humanity. And this is one expression of God. A lot of people, I don't know why they can't think beyond this, but they'll message in the comments saying, worship the creator, not the creation. Guys, we're worshiping the creation and the creator. They're all the same. Like, what exists here is all intermingled. So if you have this perspective of God just being God and everything else is like nothing, then I don't know where you are, because God is literally the entire thing. We are all creators in His creation. So it's just everything. So we can celebrate God in all the different ways, should you believe. I don't see how you couldn't believe in a source of consciousness, energy, Godhead, creation, universe, whatever you want to call it, right? Just Jing. It's there. So it's really incredible what we have. And this ability is accessible for us to connect to this, to draw it in, and we have people and conscious beings all around us that support us with our frequency shift and our evolution. And they have their own frequencies and evolutions and histories and memories as well, these conscious planetary beings in our solar system. But Earth truly is the prized daughter of this star system. And so we need to step up and be the best that we can. And we need to plant trees, and we need to eat better foods and be more plant-based, and to regenerate the environment and the oceans, and to help the sea turtles and the whales and like all the creatures great and small, and to build a solar community where we really are in resonance with the earth, and every single day makes the soil more fertile rather than stripping it devoid of nutrients and fertility. We should be leaving the planet better for our ancestors, because big things can happen, and at any moment we don't know who's going to be there to pick up the pieces. So we need to leave everything as best we can every moment going forward, because we can be given curveballs. Big volcanic event, boom, volcanic winter. We're going to have some trouble eating, folks. Meanwhile, we put all this energy into AI and we can't even like feed ourselves. Like, these are the sort of realities that are coming into play as we have this El Nino event coming in 2026, very likely to be a super El Nino, at least a strong El Nino, very possibly a super El Nino. So we all do the best that we can, taking one step at a time, picking up trash, communicating with all those around us, and hopefully reducing our dependency on some of these things that were very discreetly pushed upon us and made for us to become dependent on them. We used to not have these dependencies, and now they exist. And it takes time to walk back from certain things. And that's not a problem, but we should be making mindful, intentional steps to do so. Spend more cash rather than all these tracking things. I don't know. I'm just sharing with you some of the things I've been thinking about and looking at it as optimistically and positively as possible, because we need also right now more inspiration and people doing beautiful, wonderful, artful, incredible, adventurous, exploratory things. We need this. This is what I believe. Thank you for letting me share it with you. That is today's broadcast. I don't believe there's anything else for me to, well, there's one more thing for me to discuss, not much though. Let me show you. Here we see our low energy particle flux, and we see that it's gone up right here. So this is a sign that we have some sort of solar storm structure coming in. I think it's probably actually going to be fairly strong, and this is when the main plasma changeover event will occur. A lot of this cometary plasma has been bundled up into plasmoids, and it's traveling along the solar wind. And so we're having some of it sweep over us right now, but in general, the solar wind is rate limiting that. And we're going to get these globs of plasma, basically like eggs almost, to get deposited into our plasmasphere and our magnetotail. So expect some really incredible changes going forward for the next week. Pay attention. One thing I asked people today was, did you sleep well? Because I saw the shift in the Schumann resonances, and I slept a long time. I talked to my aunt, she's like, I had the best sleep in a long time. Talked to a couple of people, they're like, yeah, I slept really good last night. So these are the sort of things that can occur when our natural resonant energy fields are strong and healthy. And God knows we all need good, healthy sleep, right? If we can't even sleep, what sort of prison are we living in? So we don't want that. So with that, we are going to play the sound bowl. Oh, we're going to play the sound bowl and do a meditation. So thank you all so much, everybody, for being here, for doing the things, for living the life. That is what it is all about. Make sure to smash that like button if you've enjoyed this. If you've had fun, just do it. What, it takes like a second? 1 hertz? You could be smashing like buttons all day, baby. Maybe that's the best thing you can do. Maybe you just making sure you like all your friends' posts. It doesn't matter what it is. If they're your friend, it's not like really crazy. Share the love. That's my thought process. Appreciate you guys. And definitely recommend you are in a position where you can have good breathing. And in addition to that, maybe think about doing some humming. I think the humming may be good. So you can hum just a little bit along with this perhaps. Take a deep breath. And sigh it out. Have a good release. Relax. Sometimes doing less is doing more. How was that, folks? Yeah, this one really gets your third eye activated. Just resonates the whole body. Envision a better world for others, for yourself, your loved ones, kids, family, all life. The earth herself. Take a deep breath. physiological sigh resets the entire nervous system. You also need to connect to these frequencies. Maybe Earth resets, but if you hold on to that noisy second gear, you may not get the healing that you need. You have to let go as well. Just trust the process. Release. To be in resonance with the earth is not crazy. It is, in fact, very normal. Anyone that tells you this is crazy is completely disconnected from the reality that we live here on this planet. But it is interesting how this crystal bowl, which can be such an instrument of profound divine healing, was first created, I hear, because of the expansion of technology, and specifically the quartz crucibles that they needed ultra pure for melting silicone for chips, turned into the sound bowls and crystal bowls that we know today. So we do have this path forward that is harmonious with all aspects. And just as we've had the creation of the chip, the silicone chip, which we pretty much all interact with every single day, we all have a relationship with our phone, our computer, whatever else. We also equally need to be exploring these facets and understandings of reality. I do believe that so long as we do both, we will be fine. And we can all still coexist and connect together on the internet and build wonderful community and weave a tapestry of peace, love, and understanding across all cultures that unites us together, going forward into a global society that is arms open to the universe as a whole. But we need to probably be exploring all these things, and not to look too much inward, or to not look inward at all, or to be just too focused on the material realm and not to see all the other expressions of energy and frequency and humanity. Nikola Tesla said, if you want to understand the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. So one of the most genius, gifted people that we know of in all existence, giving us some clues more than probably about 100 years ago now or more, as to one way for us to conduct life. Because in that question, or statement rather, there's the answer of think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. What is your energy? What is your frequency? What is your vibration? What is the energy, frequency, vibration of your surroundings that you can cultivate and also enforce, right? Because certain things that are going up, being done illegally without public permission, that needs to be enforced. So we can see this. Send you all lots of love and light. Please all take care of yourselves. A reminder that right now, if you pick up something on earthevolution.com/store, the e-store we have, where we have a bunch of holistic wellness products, merchandise, you can get a free sample pack of tea. So if you order the Spirituality Starter Pack, you'll see that on the website. I'll link it in the video description and also to this video. You will perhaps get a free tea sample. So that promotion is currently running right now. Thank you all. I'll be back with more information as more stuff comes in. Connect to this comet that we have right now, C2025 R3 PANSTARRS, directly in between the sun and the earth. Now is a profound chance for anyone to connect with it deeper than we already did in this video. So yes, I encourage you all to experiment and play into that more. Thanks so much and have a great day.